Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. My name is Harshmeet Singh and I welcome you all to episode number 4 of the Prelims 2022 hack series, in which we have been discussing with you certain mnemonics and hacks to prepare you better for the upcoming prelims examination. Now, because of your overwhelming comments in the comment section of the previous videos, we have today brought for you some mnemonics specially related to the subjects of geography and environment. A lot of you have been requesting us to bring up some mnemonics related to the tributaries of important rivers, important mountain passes, Ramsar sites, the countries through which the Tropic of Cancer or Tropic of Capricorn passes. So we have tried to compile as much information as possible from all those pointers, and we have worked hard to create mnemonics in that respect. Now let's see if these mnemonics help you to remember these facts related to the prelims examinations. The first one that we have for you is the states of India through which the Tropic of Cancer passes. Now, this is information which has been asked earlier in the prelims examination. These states of India include Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Tripura and Mizoram. Let's see a fun and a simpler way to remember these states. What you can remember is CM Raja GMAT West. Or let's assume there was a person called CM Raja who gave the GMAT examination because he wanted to go to the Western nations. Now, the easier way to remember this is in these three first words, just ignore the letter A. As long as you ignore the letter A, it would not be very difficult to remember. C here stands for Chhattisgarh, M stands for Madhya Pradesh, R in Raja stands for Rajasthan, J stands for Jharkhand, GMAT, G stands for the state of Gujarat, M here stands for the state of Mizoram, T stands for the state of Tripura, and then we have West, that is for West Bengal. Do remember, just ignore the letter A. Also, just like the earlier episodes where I told you, focus only on the capital letters that are written on your screen. So don't focus on the small letters, just focus on the capital letters. So as long as you can remember CM, Raja, GMAT, West, that is all that you need to know to remember these states. Next, let's look at outside India. Let's look at those nations through which the equator passes. Now, there are a total of 13 nations through which the line of equator passes. These include Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, then a very lesser known small nation of Sao Tome and Principe, then we have Gabon, Democratic Republic of Congo, and then we have the Republic of Congo. So 2 countries for Congo name: Uganda, Kenya, Somalia, Maldives, Indonesia and Kiribati. A good way to remember this can be, if you can remember this phrase, see James Buck sick. See James Buck sick. Assume for a moment here that James Buck is a microorganism that makes you sick. So let's assume it's a microorganism that makes you sick. So see James Buck sick. Let's see how this works. The letter C here stands for Congo. So in both these cases, in both the countries, I am only assuming that their name is Congo. So C here stands for Congo. Then James Buck, where G stands for Gabon, E stands for Ecuador, M here would stand for Maldives, S would stand for Somalia, B here would stand for Brazil, U comes for Uganda, C again comes for Congo, and K here comes for Kiribati. This is how you can remember all the 13 nations through which the line of equator passes. These are these 13 nations named again here for your reference. The next important fact here for you is those group of nations through which the prime meridian passes. Prime meridian again is a very important imaginary line that you need to remember. The prime meridian passes through the nations which are United Kingdom. We are considering United Kingdom here as England, so it would be easier for us to remember. France, Spain, Algeria, Mali, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Togo and Antarctica. Very simple to remember this. Just remember the phrase FM or Finance Minister tea bags. If you have a difficulty in remembering this phrase also, remember this news. Our Finance Minister, that is Nirmala Sitharaman, extends cash benefit to tea garden workers. Now this is a real news. I have not made it up. It's a real snippet of a newspaper. So you can remember FM, tea bags, or a finance minister likes tea bags. See how. F stands for France, M stands for Mali. Tea bags, T here stands for Togo, E here stands for England, A stands for Algeria. Then we have B, which stands for Burkina Faso, A stands for Antarctica, G stands for Ghana, and S here stands for Spain. So FM tea bags, or finance minister loves tea bags, can be a good way to remember the prime meridian nations. Next up, we have the nations through which the Tropic of Cancer passes. Now, it might be slightly difficult to remember these, but it is significant because India also is one of those nations through which the Tropic of Cancer passes. Now, a phrase which can make it easy for you to remember these nations is, now I know for a fact that the spelling of maximum does not have the letter E, but there is a reason why E is there. That is for you to remember Mexico. So let's remember this. Maximum communalism is found on web, Taiwan and Bangladesh. No offense to anyone from Taiwan, no offense to anyone from Bangladesh, but this is how we can remember it. Maximum communalism found on web, Taiwan and Bangladesh. Let's see how. As I said, MEXI will help remember Mexico. Then we have Taiwan and Bangladesh, which are covered. WEB, web, here would stand for W as in Western Sahara, E which stands for Egypt, and B that stands for Bangladesh. All the remaining nations and their initials can be made out with the word communalism, which you can check. So just one single simple phrase will help you remember all the Tropic of Cancer nations. Maximum communalism found on web, which is a fact, Taiwan and Bangladesh, even if you don't agree with these nations, but just remember this for the sake of remembering these nations. Then we have the Tropic of Capricorn nations, another important imaginary line which passes through multiple nations including Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, Namibia, Botswana, etc. Now how to remember this? Let's see. If you want, you can remember this. Mad cabman boats south para. Now this might seem like a random phrase to you. So if you are a visual learner, let me help you to try and remember this phrase. Just see this photo. And now what do you see in this photo? You see a mad person who might be a cab man. He's driving a cab like a boat going towards south. Para is for Paraguay. So mad cabman boats south para. Now again, it might not be the easiest way for you to remember, but it is making it slightly easier for you to remember these nations than otherwise. Now MAD, M-A-D here stands for Madagascar. Boats stands for Botswana. South here stands for South Africa. Para here stands for Paraguay. And the remaining nations are made up by this word cabman. So mad cabman, boats, south, para. Again, I am not saying that all these phrases or sentences will make sense to you, but at least having something is better than having nothing in this particular regard. So this photo might be helpful for you if you are a visual learner. Next, we have mountain passes. Now, out of all the comments that we have received on the first few videos that we did in this series, one of those comments that got repeated multiple times was a way to remember mountain passes. Now, we know for a fact that there are a lot of mountain passes in India and it is just not possible to remember all of them. So what we have done is, we have tried to take it state by state, and we are not covering all the states right now. But what we are trying to do is at least make a beginning and see if we can remember a few of them to begin with. First, we are taking the mountain passes that pass through the state of Uttarakhand. These mountain passes include Manna Pass, Mangshadhura, Trails Pass, Ordnance Col, Nama Pass, Kalindi Pass, Sinla, Mulingla, Lipulek Pass, Niti Pass. Now this might not be the easiest thing for you to remember, but if you are really keen on remembering this, let's go ahead with this. The phrase that can help you here is Mama Tanks Mulling. Mama Tanks Mulling. M-A-M-A. Mama here stands for two passes, that is the Manna Pass and the Mangsha Pass. So Mama here stands for Manna and Mangsha. Then T-A-N-K-S, tanks. T for Trails Pass, A for Ordnance Col, N for Nama Pass, K for Kalindi Pass, and S for Sinla. And the remaining are Mulling. Now Mulling in itself is a pass also, and you can remember two other passes by the same spelling. Mulling, Lipulek and Niti. So if you can remember this phrase, Mama Tanks Mulling, that is how you can remember the mountain passes passing through the state of Uttarakhand. Now, I will be the first one to accept the fact that it is not easy to remember all these mnemonics. Now, there are three ways that you can go about it. First way that many candidates go ahead with this, they remember all the mnemonics, or at least they try to remember all the mnemonics, which is not humanly possible. The second way that the candidates opt for is they remember some of the mnemonics which they find easier. Now you might find these mnemonics easier, or you might find the ones that we discussed in the earlier episodes. Whichever seems to be the easier one for you, just go ahead with those. Then there are third kind of candidates who don't remember any mnemonics. They think, let it be. If I remember something automatically, that is absolutely fine. If I don't remember, that is also fine. You have to choose which kind of a candidate are you. We are here to help all the three kind of candidates. As far as I am personally concerned, I usually go for the second option, that is the midway. Rather than focusing on and trying to remember all the mnemonics, which is not possible, I try and remember some of them, especially in the subject where I find myself weaker, so that I can actually gather more information from those subjects. So it is time for you to be smart and make that choice. So these are the mountain passes that pass through Uttarakhand. Similarly, there are mountain passes that pass through the state of or the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. These include the Banihal Pass, Zojila, Burzel Pass, Pensila and Pir Panjal Pass. Now, there might be a few small passes that we have not covered in this list, but these are the most significant ones and we have tried to cover as many as possible to make it easy for you to remember. So from the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, we have these passes. Now, how do we remember that? Just remember Big Boss, Pepsi, Z. Now, the reason why we have clubbed together Big Boss and Pepsi is because both are endorsed by Salman Khan. So maybe if you can draw that connection, it might be easier for you. Here's a photo for you also to remember. Let's assume that whatever sign he is making from his hand is equal to Z. So Big Boss, Pepsi, Z, that can be a good way for you to remember the mountain passes passing through the state of Jammu and Kashmir. BIG, Big, or here B stands for Banihal. The second B here stands for the Burzel Pass. Then we have two passes starting with P. That can be Pensila and Pir Panjal. And then we have Z or Z, that is Zojila. This is a way in which you can remember the mountain passes existing in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. This brings us to the end of episode number 4 of the Mnemonics series. I hope you are finding it very useful. Thank you so much. We'll meet very soon with episode number 5 on next Friday.